Welcome back to another episode of Dentside Depot. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to pretend that the year is 1978 or 1979, and you are going to walk into a Ford dealership and you are going to option a pickup truck with the 10 best options of your personal choice. So think of it like this. The year's 1979. You pick the size truck you want, a regular cab shorty, a regular cab, four-wheel drive, long bed, an F350, 4x4, a crew cab, whatever it is in your head that you think is your favorite style truck. You put your trim level on it that you want, custom, Lariat, XLT, whatever you want, whatever engine you want, and now you have the decision to make, what 10 boxes am I going to check for options, no matter what truck you're building. So that's what we're going to do today. It's going to be my personal 10 best options between functionality, coolness factor, and everything else. I picked out my 10 favorites, so let's look at these trucks and let's pick out the 10 best Dentside Ford truck options. All right, so I have most of the team out here today to help us with picking our 10 best options. And again, we're just picking the 10 options that will be best to put on a truck. It's not how rare they are, how expensive they are. It's just what 10 things would you want most on your truck. Don't worry about the cost or anything else. The one I'm going to start with first is definitely a coolness factor option, and it is going to be the Cactus Smasher or bumper bar. And I'm going to cheat a little bit and add in a second one, being the fog lights. So with this package, you would get the push bar on the front, and then you could also get it with fog lights, or you could get the fog lights on their own. I'm going to cheat a little bit here, and we're going to put them both together at the same time because they would often be optioned together. So as we go through all our options today and we talk about them, we're also going to look at the cost of each option. And then at the very end, I'll give you a total cost for all 10 options that I'm going to put on my 1979 dream truck, being only 10 options. You would also get the fog lamp switch underneath the dash right here, and technically this switch would go where the security lock group is. So let's look at the cost here. All right, bumper push bar would be $68.90, and the fog lamp option would be $114.50, and you can see it's not available with protection group, and that's because they would both be mounted in the same spot. That's option one. Okay, our next option that I would want would be the tilt wheel. And let me also say, I'm calling out these options that would go on any single truck. So ignore engine options or trim or, you know, front axle options, just general options for any particular truck. And that would be tilt wheel for this one. So the tilt wheel, you would push the lever backwards, or towards the front, I guess you would say, and you'd be able to click the wheel into, I believe it's 5 total positions, which is also really nice. Now I'm going to cheat on this one as well, and I'm going to choose the sport wheel or the rally wheel to add with my tilt wheel. Now you couldn't get cruise control if you select that option, but that's probably what I'd go with because I'm not going to be putting cruise control on my dream 10 option dream truck here. I know I'm kind of cheating again here, but you have to have a steering wheel on the truck, so kind of not cheating, but kind of is. Tilt wheel would have been $78, and I'm just going to round everything to the nearest whole number. And steering wheel sport would be $56, and that requires power steering. Wonder why that is. Not available with speed control. All right, next up we're going to be looking at this 79 Crew Cab Ranger XLT here, and our next option is going to be air conditioning, the most expensive option that I'm going to go over today. Air conditioning would change the following things. Obviously, you would have air conditioning, clearly. You would have a different HVAC controller that would have air conditioning functions on it. Obviously, you would have additional vents in the dash. You would eliminate the floor vents, I believe, in most or all instances. You would have a different firewall with an HVAC box. You would have this controller right here, vacuum controller, to change the coolant temperature, etc. It's like going to be like 98 degrees here today in Pennsylvania, so air conditioning is definitely a big one for sure. Our total price on AC would be $578. Okay, next up we're looking at a 79 F350 Super Cab 4x4, a super rare truck, and our option for this one is going to be Camper Special. Now, the Camper Special changed a few things on the truck. First of all, you'd have a Camper Special emblem right here, just like you would see on the crew cabs. Functionally, one of the biggest things that would change is the wiring harness would be different, And underneath the truck, there would be this auxiliary harness right here. And the purpose of this harness was to allow you to plug in electrics to the camper shell, which was definitely pretty cool. In addition, on camper special trucks, you would often see heavier sway bars in the back. I'll show it to you. That's the bigger sway bar right there. It's a thicker diameter. You'd often see auxiliary springs added to a camper special truck. That was typical, but separate, I believe. In most instances, you would often see the pass-through window on the back. And another part that wasn't technically with the camper special, but would often occur, is the dual battery option. The dual battery option would add an additional solenoid to the driver's side apron, a second battery tray, an auxiliary battery harness that would go into that solenoid into the second battery to tie it into the system. You'd have one fusible link found right here on the firewall, and that would tie the whole system in together. Now the point of it was you would turn the key inside the cab. I'll show you here. Inside the cab, you turn the key to the left, to the accessory position, and when you did that, it would isolate the second battery. So you would only be draining the second battery. Then you could go and start the truck and it would recharge that auxiliary battery, and that was the point of the system. So really a cool system. I wouldn't really be using it in modern day, but back in the day, I think a camper shell would be really cool to go and do some camping. That's just what I'd personally put on my truck. The cost of that option, it would depend on what specific truck you had to start with, would change the cost, but anywhere from $245 to up to $350 for the camper special. And most people would opt for the dual batteries. That would really kind of defeat the purpose if you didn't. That would add another $97 onto it, and that would give you a total of, you know, $350 to $450 depending, but pretty expensive option there. For our next option, we'll head back in the shop here because it'll be easier to show you in the 12 valve Cummins swap project. It is going to be the convenience group option. Not a very expensive option, and it doesn't give you that much. It would only give you the map pockets, a bigger rear view mirror that had, or a 12-inch day-night mirror. But the biggest reason I would select this option is because of this guy right here, which if you don't have it, you know it really sucks. It is the intermittent wiper as a part of the convenience package. It would add in this auxiliary box that would splice into your harness. It would bolt down to the dash to provide the ground and also an additional ground wire here. And the purpose of it was you would have intermittent wipers. And you know, if you've driven one of these trucks without intermittent wipers in the rain, it can be pretty annoying, and that would definitely be something I would want to have on a daily driver. And I put that in all of my trucks for sure. The convenience group option is $54.30. If you don't have it in your truck, you can go on to Bronco Graveyard or Dennis Carpenter and they sell them. They're like $70. They plug right in and boom, you have that option. Our next option would be the 2500 HD Denali sunroof option. Really, really cool option. It only costs like $8,000 to install. No, I'm kidding. That was never an option. Nice try. Okay, our next option here is actually my personal favorite option out of all of them. It is also one of the 2 or 3 rarest options, I would say. This is definitely amongst them, and that is the CB radio option. This option is super rare. The only options that are really as rare as this would be the AM digital clock radio and the rear defroster, both of which you've seen on my channel. But don't have a lot of functionality. Well, I guess the rear defroster is pretty functional, but I digress. So here's what you get with the CB radio. You would have, obviously, your standard radio, and then there would be additional wires that would hook the radio, the CB radio, into the stereo. You can tell if you have a CB radio truck because you will have either 2 holes right here or 2 holes right here down at the bottom, and that indicates that you have the CB radio option unless someone drilled them out. This is an original CB radio dash and truck, and you can see that's where the factory holes go. The CB radio itself would mount approximately, or the plug-in harness would mount approximately in this location right here. Obviously, I have a lot of additional options going on in this truck. I've put pretty much all of them into this truck at this point. So you would have, made by Motorola, you'd have a box in the back. It depended if you had a Bronco or a super cab or a regular cab where they would go. And then you would have the microphone, and the microphone would mount on the dash, and you would have your CB radio. So that was definitely really cool. If you want to know more about the CB radio option, you can check out my channel. There's a whole video on it, so I won't go into it anymore. CB radio requires an additional radio option, and it would be $337.40. Very expensive and very, very rare to find in one of these trucks. Oh, and I almost forgot. There would be an additional antenna, or a different antenna that was tri-band. And if you can find one of those antennas, they have a black base on them, you just struck gold. All right, our next option here would be the roll bar, what Ford called it the GT bar, because it was never designed to actually provide any safety in the case of a rollover, so they called it a GT bar. Really cool option, definitely one of my favorites. Doesn't really provide any functionality besides looking really cool, which it definitely does. Finding a factory roll bar like this one is difficult. They are unique. They essentially bolt right in. You just have to drill the holes. They will bolt into any truck. Really super cool option. Most people add lights to the top. There's 3 tabs to add the lights, but that was definitely a really cool option, and something that's really difficult to find today. Available on almost anything except the Super Camper Specials, it looks like. That option would be $104.50. The next option isn't one that you would necessarily think about, but you can see my F100 right here and my F250 do not have tinted glass, and I can tell you, having them outside, the tinted glass makes a huge difference between the untinted glass. Plus it looks way better. So with tinted glass, essentially all that would happen is the glass on the driver's side and passenger side door, or doors, would be tinted, and then the rear window would also be tinted, along with the wing windows, etc., to provide that tint, which was definitely more comfortable to drive around with. Tinted glass, and that's all around, would be $34 for a regular cab or super cab, and then crew cab, oh my, you had to pay an extra $8.20. So if you had a crew cab, you were really splurging on the tinted glass, which is definitely worth it because it looks way better and it's much more functional. If you're wondering what this is right here, it's from my IBeam testing video that I did last week. If you want to check it out, the link's in the description below. Next up, we're talking radios again, and I didn't cheat by adding this into the CB radio option. You had 4 different radio options: AM with digital clock, AM FM non-stereo, and then AM FM stereo being the top radio for $79. You would have an AM and FM obviously, and it would be stereo from left to right. Definitely a really good option that you would definitely want on a factory truck. It was expensive, $201, so twice as much as the AM only, but that would definitely be an option that you would want in your top 10. And that brings us to our last option that we're going to add to our 10 option dream truck here today, and it's going to be the convenience light group option. The first part of it would be is you would get a bed cab light. It's not a third brake light, so you'd have the light facing into the cab, and then there would be a switch in the driver's backside, crew cabs all the way in the back, and then regular cabs right there, super cabs all the way in the back, obviously. It would also add an auxiliary harness underneath, and it's amazing that this truck, as taken apart as it is, still has it in there. But you would have a little light bulb underneath the dash on each side, so when you open the door, you would have lights on the floor, which was definitely really, really good to have. When you open up the glove box, you would have the sensor right here that would pop open. It would turn the light on for inside of the glove box, which was definitely really cool, especially at nighttime. Amazingly, you would also have a little light inside of the ashtray for all those 70s and 80s cigarette smoking guys. That was definitely pretty cool. And that was pretty much it for the light group. Now, I originally had the security group on here, which was the locking hood pull, but you can't have that with the fog lights from the factory. So I technically couldn't have had both. So that's why I went with these particular options. So now let's add them all up and let's see what they would have cost altogether. Okay, so now let's look at what this would cost today. So assuming that our truck that we picked out was a 1979 F350 custom 4x4, that cost would have been $9,305, which would be a lot more than an F-250 regular cab 4x4, but that would be my personal dream pick. Of course, probably a Lariat though, so that would make it more expensive. Our options today cost a total of $2,065, which is not a ton of options, a pretty good amount, as my dog is hacking in the background here. So that's a decent amount, making our total $11,370 for both, being the base truck and then all the options that we're going to have. I then compared it from prices then to prices today for 2023 inflation, and that would come out to $47,719. One more thing for my viewers that regularly watch my videos, I'm going to be switching to an every other week format just to try and raise the quality of my videos that I do a little bit. And it is a ton of work getting these videos out, and I'm doing the best that I can. I at least post one short every day, and I'm probably going to post 2 to 3 long format videos a month from here on out. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Dentside Depot. We're working hard here to get more restorations done. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode.